student can care very deeply about succeeding and still look lazy from the outside. They may sit on the couch while an assignment remains untouched. They may say they're going to start right after dinner, and we all know how that turns out. Somehow it's 10 o'clock at night and it still hasn't been done. They may ignore reminders, avoid opening the assignments, or become irritated whenever somebody mentions homework. From a parent's perspective, the explanation seems obvious. They just don't want to do the work. Sometimes a student does make a choice to avoid work. Having ADHD doesn't remove the responsibility, and it doesn't mean every unfinished assignment should be excused. But calling the student lazy only describes what we can see. It doesn't tell us why it's happening. The student may care very much about the grade. They may feel guilty that the work is unfinished. They may be worried about disappointing you. And they may even spend the entire evening thinking about the assignment without being able to even make themselves begin. That doesn't look like effort from the outside. But inside, the student may be stuck between, I have to do this, and I don't know how to make myself start. For many students with ADHD, the hardest part of an assignment may happen before they write the first answer. They have to figure out, what exactly am I supposed to do? Where do I begin? How long will this take? What materials do I need? And what happens if I don't understand the first problem? And how am I supposed to organize everything else that I need to finish? When those questions don't have clear answers, the task can feel much larger than it really is. Then avoidance provides temporary relief. The student checks the phone, they get something to eat, they reorganize the desk, and they suddenly remember something they needed to do. For a few minutes, they don't have to feel confused or overwhelmed. That relief can make the avoidance look like a lack of caring. But sometimes the student is avoiding the feeling created by the assignment, not the importance of the assignment itself. See, chemistry can make this especially visible. Imagine opening a worksheet filled with unfamiliar symbols and multi-step problems. The student may not know whether the first question involves dimensional analysis, stoichiometry, gas laws, equilibrium, or something they were supposed to remember from 3 chapters ago. If they don't organize the type or recognize the type of problem, then they don't know which formula to choose. And if they don't know which formula to choose, they don't know what the first step is. So they sit there. A parent sees a blank worksheet and says, "You haven't even tried." The student hears, "You're lazy." But the real problem may be, I don't know how to enter this problem. That doesn't mean we should complete it for them, obviously. It means we need to find the exact point where the forward momentum stopped. Instead of beginning with, "Why aren't you doing your work?" try asking something like, "Show me where you became unsure." Or, "What is the smallest part of this assignment you do understand?" Can you tell what the first problem is even asking you to find? Those questions don't lower expectations. They make the barrier visible. Sometimes the student really does know what to do and needs a firm expectation. Sometimes they need distractions removed. Sometimes they're mentally exhausted and need a short reset. Sometimes the assignment feels enormous because they're thinking about all the 20 problems instead of the first one. And sometimes they have a chemistry gap that prevents them from recognizing how to begin. Those situations can look identical from across the room, but they require very different responses. That's why curiosity works better than judgment. Before deciding that a student doesn't care, we can ask, do they understand the assignment? Can they name the first action? Do they know how to break it into smaller parts? Are they avoiding effort, or are they avoiding confusion, failure, or overwhelm? Do they need accountability, instruction, structure, or some combination of all three? Once we know the barrier, we can help the student take one real step. We don't say, "Finish your chemistry homework." We say something like, "Open the assignment and identify what the first 3 questions are asking. Then choose one problem you recognize. Then work for 10 focused minutes before deciding what comes next." The goal isn't to make everything easy. The goal is to make the next action clear enough that the student can begin. A capable student still needs accountability, But accountability is most effective when the student has a process they can actually follow. So the next time your student looks lazy, pause before deciding what that behavior means. Ask, what is happening between knowing they should work and actually beginning? Because when we identify the real barrier, we can teach a real solution. In the next lesson, we'll examine why telling a struggling student to try harder or practice more may simply make them repeat an ineffective process for longer. Before you move on, think about one recent assignment your student avoided. Try not to judge the behavior yet. Ask what actually stopped the forward momentum first. Share one thing you noticed below or write it down privately. Thanks. Have a great day.